Welcome to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of Doberman Technologies, Ian Richardson, for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Carrie Richardson.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Richardson, host of What's Important Now. Today, I'm asking Andrew Moore. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out.
Your first podcast?
This is the first time I've had an opportunity to do this, so I'm excited to see how it works. Should be fun.
Why don't we start with tell me about the new venture.
I've started Ridgeview Advisors, and the plan is to be working with MSPs to help them with what I call operationalizing trust, which is the part that everybody thinks that they should be doing, but nobody knows how to scale. When you're an MSP, you're out there trying to get your clients to trust you. And a lot of the times people do that just being the owner. They hit a certain level where they just can't get enough people to trust them all the time. And what winds up happening is they can't scale their business because everybody wants a piece of them specifically, and they can't get out there enough, tell their story enough, help their clients enough. What I want to do is figure out how to take the idea of building trust into your community through being a subject matter expert and lunch and learns, partnering with other B2B organizations, draw that through your sales process into your operations, and then scale it so that you can build real value.
It's not like you're a newcomer to the space. You were, until recently, part of a large MSPs. Tell us about your journey.
I came directly out of 1999, 2000, getting Microsoft certifications, and I got a job in MSP. I'll be honest, I was a terrible employee. I was new to getting a job. I worked for a company called eNet. And whoever those guys are, if they hear this, like, y'all were right to get rid of me. I was not good at what I did. I went into the federal government, skipped around after DHS was founded. I got a chance to work under Homeland Security grants. That was a cool experience. Then I started at a company called Ergos, and there was about 8 or 10 of us at the time. We started to scale, and we built it up. In the 6 years that I was there, 50 or 60 folks were working there when I left. And they were bought by a private owner who's still there. His name's Salim, and he's really grown that up to one of the biggest MSPs in the country. I started doing the engineering stuff and working with the clients and then figuring out how to build run books and how documentation, time entry, and working with the early part of ConnectWise in this environment and figuring out how all that worked. And then I got a chance to meet up with a guy named Ryan Lakin. And
everything went to hell.
You told me that the one rule of the podcast was we couldn't actually talk shit about people. We'll talk about Ryan.
Now, everybody loves Ryan.
It's true. He's been really good to me. I elevated myself into the position of COO with Ryan. And when we started, like I said, there were about 8 or 10 of us. We built it up over about 12 years. When there was finally an exit there after I'd come on board, we were about 65 people. We were about an $11 million MSP. And we were platformed, which was amazing. So we had a private equity investor come in. We focused on creating scalable processes and systems. We developed an awesome process for our operations. We were very profitable. We didn't have good sales coming in. I don't think sales is a dark art. There's a magic to it. Marketing requires a certain eye. There's a process. If you do the right things, when you're dealing in business, if you sit down and say, are we doing the right activity? Are we targeting the ideal client profile for us? If we're not just trying to take everything in, if we're going through the process and our routines of qualifying these deals as they come through, so we're not wasting our time, we can drive real sales. And then started that process. And then we had 15% year over year growth for almost 4 years. It wasn't because I did anything special. We created a process around sales. We talked to you at that during that time, which was like, how do you make sure that you got good lead gen, and where are you going to be bringing these folks in from? And how do you do the qualifying process? And what does that look like? You kept telling us it's a process. It's a numbers game. Follow a process and a script, put stuff in place, tweak it.
You're the only company I ever spoke to that knew their cost of acquisition immediately. You didn't have to look at numbers. I was like, Brian, how much do you close a new client? He was like $16,000.
Yeah.
He knew. And
Yeah.
most MSPs don't. They don't know how much their leads cost, and they don't know how much their deals cost.
I think cost of acquisition is way more than anyone thinks it should be. If you talk to any MSP, they'd be like, I don't know, like 300 or 400. I don't think they actually
It's
know.
crazy. Like we would ask that all the time. That was back when we were undercharging. When we were a small business and didn't understand our numbers, we might have charged $500 a lead at that time. And we should have been charging 5,000. It has to be a qualified lead, and it has to hit all the high notes. It has to be in the right industry, within a certain window of evaluation. When an MSP says that they want leads, what they're saying is, I want you to do all of the work and hand me a sales opportunity with a bow on top that is bank qualified. All I have to do is go in there with a contract I've already filled out and put it in front of them, and I want to sign it.
Well, I remember when I first started doing sales, I still had a problem talking about budget. It made me feel uncomfortable because I was like, what if I scare them away? What if I started to realize I really needed to know what that budget was with that client? Because if I didn't, I would waste our time. Like the cost of acquisition is so expensive because you're having to go out and deploy a sales engineer and review their network. And that's not even including like how much it's going to cost you to pay your commissions and the marketing spend that you're doing on all of it, your pay-per-click and all that. We as engineers and folks like that, when we get into MSP, we really worry about whether or not we're going to be able to close this deal because we get so few of these opportunities because we don't have a refined sales system or sales process. And that's why I keep telling everybody, get these things lined up, get these opportunities qualified. If you're not qualifying up front, then you're pulling stuff through. How often do you get to the point where a salesperson brings in a lead and they get all the way to putting contracts together and somebody in ops looks at it and goes, this is terrible. Why are we doing this? This isn't great for anybody. You wind up pulling them through and you want to give the sales guy some mo and he convinced you to do it. Now you've got an underperforming client and that turns into 2 or 3 underperforming clients. And then your margins are crap. That salesperson doesn't stick around anyway. Right? People have really got to focus on that part of their business instead of just taking whatever comes through the door and not having a process around sales. That's one of the most important things I learned.
I have a solution to that problem. We spent 2 years building it. And
I love that.
We just took everything our clients were asking for and productized it. You hit capacity consulting quickly.
Right.
We could support 8 clients with a full-time strat-op or fractional CRO gig. The total addressable market is what, 55,000 MSPs in North America alone.
That's so many.
We could capture 1% of the addressable market. That replaces our consulting revenue, 10 times over.
You were going to show me a bit of your product at IT Nation. Tell me without getting too sales pitchy.
First, it eliminates most of the grunt work at the beginning of the sales process. So let's say you're going to hire in-house. You're going to stop paying the astronomical third-party lead generation agency fees. You're going to stop doing pay-per-click and SEO. Nobody knows really how it works, but it's very expensive. What we have found over and over again is that MSPs will hire somebody in sales, but they've never done sales themselves. They've been referral based or they've grown through word of mouth, and they've never done organic sales. And they've worked with third-party agencies for some lead gen here and there, but now they're going to bring a sales rep into the org and they have no structured process. Like you mentioned at the beginning, they do not have a process to hire. They think they're getting a bargain when they underpay someone, right? They're laughing like, hey, we got him for $45,000 a year. And I'm thinking like, that's not a sales rep. That is an HR nightmare waiting to happen. And they don't have the tools set up for them. They don't have any way to explain to them how they're going to make money, what their commission is going to be, right? Like you look at 100 Reddit posts, what should I pay a sales rep? How much commission should I pay them? How about we start at the very beginning with, what am I going to teach them to do? Because just because they sold insurance successfully for 4 years in Oklahoma doesn't mean that they're going to be able to sell managed services in New York. And they can't put together their own playbook and their own process. Sales reps aren't process people. We're talkers, we're dreamers, we're very convincing, but we still need somebody to say, here is how you get from A to B. Here are the steps that you have to take. Here are the guidelines or the parameters we need you to stay within. Here's how profitable we need our accounts to be. Oh, and here's what managed services is. It's not a broken printer. So we've created a platform that, first of all, starts at what is managed services. So instead of you, business owner, having to take a week of your time to sit down and explain your own business model to a sales rep, we've handled that for you. We've handled the playbooks. We've handled every single process that a sales rep would need to know to be successful within a managed service organization, starting from cold calling and lead generation to sales discovery and closing.
What I think is super cool is as we scaled our business, we had 40 or 50 people in the service delivery team. I had a couple of leads and I was busy I took on one marketing person, one sales admin, and an actual sales hunter. And that became 80% of my time. Mm-hmm. And that was just at the very beginning, right? Then we start layering on new salespeople. What I warn folks about is there's that chicken or the egg. Do you hire a sales manager? Do you hire a rep? But if you don't have somebody who's willing to manage a sales rep, then you have no business hiring a sales rep.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do it yourself, or you're not going to hire a manager to build that program for you to then hire sales reps, then I don't think you should do it. You got to have somebody that's like in your business that knows how your business works and working with that sales rep on a almost daily basis.
The platform will do fractional CRO for you.
After we platform, we work with a private equity group. We brought in a few companies from around the country. I had been going hard since the pandemic. I needed to take a step back from client delivery and some other things. And I really needed to catch my breath. And what I thought was really important was I'm in peer groups and I don't see enough high quality talent on the consulting side. That's not to say there's not out there, but to your point, there's 55,000 MSPs or some ridiculous number. I felt like there was a place to get involved and just say, hey, let's have some one-on-one. Do I want to empire build with this? Probably not. I don't know if I want to try to replicate myself 15 times and try to build some big consulting firm out of this. But for right now, I want to get back to helping people again. I want to get back to just being in the day-to-day, helping them grow their business. That's exciting to me, right?
I love small businesses. When we worked for large vendors, we were a line item. We did well for them, but when we worked for a small business and helped them land the biggest client they'd ever had, and it changed the course of their business forever, to a $1 million or $2 million MSP, that $6,000 monthly recurring client or that $15,000 monthly recurring client is significant revenue.
My dad ran his own small business. We knew if the business didn't do well, like it was going to be a shitty Christmas. Or if we happened to go on a family vacation, we may stop at a client on the way because my dad was like, we're heading by here anyway. Like it was just so ingrained in everything we did as a family and how important it was to him that if anything went sideways with that business, it affected all of us and all of his employees. And it was super important to him and all of us to be in a position with Ryan where he would give me so much opportunity to manage his business on behalf of him, his family, and our employees. It was never lost on me that there was a level of trust that most people don't understand unless you're in small business. I loved being an MSP, and I think it's so important and so privileged for the MSP community to be out there servicing these folks. I want to get back involved with MSPs at that level, knowing what they need and how important it is to have an advisor that helps them through that process so they can do the same for their clients. To me, it's cool.
My first client was an MSP out of Canada. He'll be at Evolve this year.
Cool.
He just became a client of ours for the platform. So 12 years ago, my first client is now a client again. That to me is extraordinarily flattering.
The reason I gravitated towards sales and marketing is I'm creative. So I like to create things. And so for me, like when I would build environments for our clients, it was always just about, it was almost like Legos. If you got a mind for detail, you can be an MSP. If you got a mind for creativity and how to interface things together, you can be an MSP. If you're a people person, you can be an MSP. If you're a server troll and you don't like people and you want to hide in a server room somewhere and be on the knock, or there's all these things you can do in MSP. I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know how many frustrated musicians I've met in MSP. In our last MSP, we had a band. There were so many of them, I swear to God. Like we had a band and everybody was like, yeah, I play guitar, I play drums. I had a saxophone player, a flautist. They did Jethro Tull covers. It's cool to find all these different types of people, whether they're super professional, like to consult, or super introverted. They can all come together around a common cause, which is one of my favorite things. Is that was when an MSP. It's terrible, but awesome. It's like when shit hits the fan and everybody gets together and they help a client. And at the end of the day, you did something awesome. And the client's like super excited. It's super rewarding. Different types of people together achieve stuff they didn't think they could. It's super fun. I love it. I really do.
Who else? Who else is starting another MSP now who swore they never would?
Yeah, it's crazy. They get right back in. It's interesting to see how excited they get about it again because they take all the stuff they learned and they start applying it, which is really cool to watch.
The second time around is easier.
I've done this for 20 years. My dad worked for 20 years, sold his company for a little over $1 million. I put food on our table.
Yeah.
He wasn't an MSP. I knew we weren't rich, but it doesn't matter how hard you work. That doesn't necessarily equate to how much your business is worth. It's what the market will pay for your business. Go to where the work is, know what your numbers need to be, and don't be afraid to make tough decisions, whether that's walking away from a sales opportunity that might seem like a good idea, firing a loud client because they're obnoxious. Can I ask you a question? I want to know, have you seen with your clients a shift since the pandemic where everybody in service is, I don't care about your feelings, workload, your SLAs, contract. I need this fixed now. And I'm going to jump the line and I'm going to like, there is little to no patience, I feel like anymore. Or maybe now I've just gotten old and I'm like, get off my lawn. But I feel like in the last like few years, like patience for anything service related has just been eliminated. People are just irritated all the time. Is that just me?
Ian, after he sold his MSP, refuses to do any tech work. I sold in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had to call for support for 4 years. I haven't found people being that way with us. Like I haven't found our clients being like, but again, there are no sales emergencies. Just set firm boundaries. When we started, we ignored our families while we built our businesses and we've got divorces to show for it. My kids are still speaking to me, but I was like your dad on summer vacation. So 5 more minutes to my kids to death for 10 years. We took stock of what we wanted and it helps to have a little bit of money in the bank. Now I can say, this is what I want my life to look like. And I'm not going to work with clients that don't respect what I want my life to look like. I don't have my email on my phone anymore. If I get an email after 5, it doesn't get looked at until tomorrow.
Awesome.
Ian's a Patterson Stratop guide. Mm-hmm. And he also does life planning, a strategic plan for your life. We both went through that process to see what we want the rest of our lives to look like.
That's cool.
It didn't look like taking calls from clients at 10 o'clock at night. So.
That's the thing about MSP is it's almost like being a doctor in that regard. I'm not saying you're saving lives. Please don't take that out of context. I just mean it's when you got to really helping people and you got to really take what you do seriously to a point. Like we used to say it all the time. We're not curing cancer. I wanted to make sure that people I get so stressed out with their job that they took that too seriously about, listen, sometimes our problems will be there tomorrow. And that balance in MSP has been really hard. And I feel in the last few years, it's just that people have been really focused on, maybe they feel like, at least in business, we had a lot of catching up to do. We really need to take advantage of what's going on with the economy right now. Hey, let's go. Maybe it's just the climate where people are frustrated and they don't know where to put that frustration. They take it out on the guy on the phone. There's this level of anxiety that everybody's got when it comes to wanting to get things knocked out when it comes to IT. But I also think it might just be because everybody has to be on all the time. You're at home, you're working. You're on the road, you're working, right? Like everybody is on everywhere that they go and they just expect everything to work flawlessly. So if you get somebody that calls and they're like, I can't get my job done today. Let me see if I can log in and figure out what's going on. I'm in a hotel room in Boston, staying here for a couple of days, working remote. We don't have documentation on that. And everybody gets frustrated. I was told I could work anywhere. You can.
Expectation management is a big, important part of onboarding that I think a lot of MSPs just gloss over.
Yeah. We used to have a saying, a client will let you burn down their house as long as you tell them when you're going to do it and how long it's going to take.
Yes. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Have that conversation up front, make sure it's in the contract and you make sure that you're supporting it so that when an emergency comes up, you handle it the right way. When they try to circumvent that, you can have a conversation with them. We'll do it for you this time, or we can do it, but it's going to cost more, or we can't get to it because we've got these other things that are going on. And this is not what we agreed to, right? And I think there are so many entrepreneurs and business owners feel building trust comes with saying yes, not defining what their service looks like. This is what we're going to do for you. And this is what you're going to do for us. Be patient, follow the rules, pay us on time.
Not be
And
shitty.
oh God, yeah. I think that level of give and take, if you're doing it the right way, setting that example in the way that you're putting together your outside marketing, whether that's lunch and learns with existing clients that are good, where you're bringing prospects in, right? Or events or whatever that looks like, or going out to shows and you're doing speaking engagements. If you're instilling that into what you're doing and pulling it through and building your sales process, you can understand what the client is like throughout this process. That turns into happier clients that trust you, allow you to sell new and interesting things as our industry and business changes, right? So you're going to have upsell, cross-sell opportunities. You're going to have low churn. They're going to bring in referrals for you. Your margins are going to stay in line because you built something that they understand and that they're going to stick to, so that you don't have to like how many times have MSPs got excited because they pulled 6 people off of something to go fix this thing that the client dropped in their lap at the last minute. They're like, oh, we bought a new server and we need it installed this afternoon. And then you're like, yay, we did all that. What you wound up doing was pissing off 7 other clients because you didn't get to their shit. Right. So I think that if you do all these things, right, back to your point of just creating a level of, hey, expectation management from the beginning and holding to it with some flexibility, but mostly sticking to it. To me, that's the missing thing most MSPs don't have. If you do it that way, you can't help but scale it because it's not dependent on the owner's promises or the sales guy's promises or Steve on the desk taking every single call.
You know how you get the best support? You marry someone who owns an MSP.
My wife and I met at computer school getting our Microsoft certifications. And so she has like a full-blown MCSE for Microsoft 2000 Active Directory. 15 years ago, she started focusing more on like product management and SaaS solutions and development and all that. So she's over there in that space now. I never fully finished my MCSE. Like she did. And she's like, the printer has a problem. I'm like,
a new printer.
So,
all right. So this is going to be your first IT Nation.
Yes.
As a vendor. What are you going to do? What's it going to be like for you?
I was telling friends on my morning walk, normally I go and I get wined and dined. And this year, everybody's all get bent. Like you don't have any money. Normally I'll just go and I'll like hang out and I'll network and make memories. But this year, my focus is going to be, I really want, so there's a couple of different things I really want to do. I really want to walk the floor because I know usually once or twice after walking the floor, like you get a feel for it, but I want to see what's out there, who's coming up with something new. I know AI is the big hotness, but I want to see what people are doing to actually implement it in a way that makes sense. And I think that there are some use cases that are really interesting to me. I want to see who's messing with it.
Somehow figure out how to get Ryan Lakin blackballed at the bar. I haven't figured out how to do that. My advice for a new vendor in the channel at IT Nation is go to breakfast.
They're doing Universal one night. I don't know what part of the park.
I never go to that.
It's actually pretty cool. They quarantine this section called the superhero section the one time we went, and you get to go on all the rides as much as you want. It was super fun. I love going to see live shows. I've never seen Stone Temple Pilots, the ConnectWise thing for Friday night. That's what I heard.
I might go to that this year. My best advice is work breakfast. Always get up and go to breakfast. The food is never good, but what I like to do is get a cup of coffee. And then I like, oh, is anyone sitting here? And then I sit down for a minute and I like start talking to people, see who they are and what they're doing. If there's nothing interesting, I get up with my coffee and I go to the next one. And I wait until I find the table where I feel like I might actually be able to do some business, get a little bit of fruit, or exchange business cards, and eat half my breakfast at 6 different tables.
Cool.
Those are the people that came to work. They're not sleeping through the keynote, and they didn't go out late partying last night. They're trying to figure out how their businesses work. They got up on time.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I want to talk to, the people that are like actually there to attend sessions, not the Andrew Moores who drink until 2 a.m.
What? That's not me anymore.
You have to join me at breakfast. Go hustle.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, there's an art form from going from like the question to the pitch.
Yeah.
When you're at a meal or round tables in the exhibition hall, they usually have those little round tables.
I bet you I could sit down with 10 of them and they could give me a quick 2-minute spiel on how they're running their business. I should go walk around.
See you at IT Nation.
Yes, ma'am.
Operationalizing trust. What does it mean?
When you operationalize trust for a managed services provider, it's taking what the owner, what the lead engineer, the people that have been working directly with the clients What you're doing is you're taking the essence of trust that gets built and you're instilling it into every aspect of what you do in a scalable way by taking it all the way out to your pre-sales engagements through your marketing in the community, how you're interacting with other businesses, how you're presenting yourself on LinkedIn, right? Being able to say, this is how you run a business, giving free advice, pulling that through into the sales process to be that subject matter expert, then in your contracts and how you explain to clients what your expectations should be, setting boundaries. You build that into the sales process and you pull that into operations. So the client knows what they're getting the entire road all the way through execution. And then what that's going to do is it's going to keep your margins in line because expectations have been set. They know what they're getting into. It's going to bring in better clients because you've been educating them from the beginning and they're interacting with your client base. They have an idea of what it means to work with you. You've built your sales process to demonstrate to them how trust is earned and how you're going to operate together. And so all those things come together to lowering churn, not dropping the client, creating a much better experience for the client and having better margins. And then all of that results in better EBITDA, right? So you're going to grow your business, you're going to have more profitable business, and trust is going to be something that happens throughout the system. If you do it that way, you can't help but spread it through your organization. It's not just one person doing it. The owner can't let go of the vine and move on. If you operationalize trust, you put it into everything so that at every touch point, you're putting a system in place that allows the owner to then take what they're really good at, which is technology and trust and all the things of being a business owner, and then instill it into the business. As the owner, you got to start letting go and moving on. People can't do it because they can't trust that something's getting done. But if you look at putting trust into the way that you're doing things, and this isn't like a scam, you're not trying to trick people into trusting you. What you're trying to do is operationalize it in such a way that it becomes scalable. That's when you make an impact in your community. And that's what the business owners want. Like, you can grow a business, but a lot of business owners like being out there just meeting with other business owners and helping their community out. And a lot of people got into this business to help. You can only help a finite number of people unless you operationalize the way that you build that trust and the way that you execute on things and grow that trust moving forward. And that's what my goal is, to help MSP owners do that. Operationalizing trust. The first show that I ever went to, Microsoft shows, they had emotional support animals where they would just bring in dogs and then they would walk around. They were like, conferencing's hard, play with a dog. And they would just have puppies and then you would just get to play with the puppies. And then they're like, oh, are you tired? Here's a wall of donuts. Mm-hmm. And you would walk over there and they would just like a wall of donuts and we would play with puppies. And I was like, this is way better.
The best conference I ever went to was a Las Vegas conference put on by the people that make trade show booths. Those, like, everybody just like showing off for each other. And it was incredible. It was at one of the largest conference centers, all the companies that make the booths or create experiences. One of them was a full 1920s Gatsby style. The next one was a 50s diner and a candy shop. They had actual candy. You'd sit, they'd bring you a malted and you'd sit down with one of the sales reps. And on the way out, they gave you a bag and you filled it up with candy.
That's super meta. It reminds me of that scene in Austin Powers where we have a factory that makes miniature models of factories. Thanks for
joining us today.
Super fun. I will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.